With new AI models appearing regularly, we are now approaching the next phase of artificial intelligence that gets us closer to the science fiction world of where AI does more for us. We're going to discuss the world of AI agents on this episode of Today in Tech. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Joining me on the show today is Ritu Jyoti. She is the GM and GVP of AI and Data at IDC, one of our sister companies. So welcome to the show, Ritu.
Thank you, Keith.
Actually, I should say welcome back because you were on one of our earlier episodes, but it was via Zoom when we were talking about generative AI when it was first coming out, maybe like 2 months after it debuted, right?
Yes. I really vividly remember that conversation.
So it's great to have you here in the studio, and you're going to give me the download on everything around AI agents because this is the next phase, I believe, of where artificial intelligence is going, correct?
Yeah. Well said, Keith. I mean, just to kind of, level set on this, the term agent has been used in the industry historically as well. And especially during COVID, you might have heard a lot of people talking about virtual assistant and virtual agent when, the real human customer service agents, they couldn't come to the office and they couldn't really keep up with all the demands.
Right.
We actually saw that inflection with the maturity of some of the natural language processing techniques and technology. But now we are going into the next evolution of this.
Right. So let's just start off with an easy one, I would suppose. Is there a general consensus on what the industry is talking about when you hear about AI agents or the term agentic AI? I've heard both. Are they the same thing? Are they slightly different? And then do you get agreement generally from people when they talk about AI agents?
So let me start with the easy answer first. There's not a consensus there, right? There's a lot of confusion in the industry. And part of the reason is because we are advancing so fast. Innovation is happening so fast. And in that, in scenario, there's a lot of noise being created by not just by the technology suppliers, but also by the entire community because there's lack of understanding. So now coming back to the question, are they the same? The answer is they're interconnected.
Okay.
I already said that, the term agent has been used in the industry historically, and we are now seeing the evolution. Now they're being LLM powered. And I'll also go in the definition a little bit more clearer in a couple of seconds. But the thing is that people are kind of overnight taking their chatbots and co-pilots and assistants and branding them as agents. The nuance there is that the agents are now the technical definition that we are trying to bring. And, we IDC, we are known for our taxonomies and, the market shares and forecasts. We have to level set on this, right?
And acronyms, right? You have to come up with some new acronyms.
Oh, you're going to make me chuckle now because when I joined IDC, I said IDC should get an award on actually acronyms. But on a more positive note, because we really standardize the common terminology, and that's how we have a taxonomy. We are super proud of our AI, tracker and spending guide. So bringing back to this, the evolution is that it's now going to be LLM powered. And we are at just the start of normal the text foundation models, but later on we are going to see much more multimodal foundation models. Right.
So do you have a preferred term that you use? Do you use AI agents or do you use agentic AI or do you use something even different to describe this concept?
Right now I'm using the term AI agents.
Okay.
And the agentic AI is actually a design pattern that is going to evolve, which is actually going to help multiple agents interact with each other. And during this conversation...
And when you start talking about the workflow, it becomes agentic AI workflow.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly.
Okay. And so the other concept, is this the same concept that you see in science fiction or the superhero movies where Tony Stark is talking to Jarvis and he you're like, Jarvis, turn on the lights and play the music and then calculate this really hard problem I'm having with the design. Or the other example I thought of was Star Trek, where they're on the bridge and they go, computer, red alert, and then everything goes red, and so that's responding to a command. Is that what AI agents in a really general sense
so
are going to be
all
like?
Fascinated by science fiction,
course.
right? So those
Right.
examples are spot on. But simplistically, I would say the key difference between all the earlier versions of the stuff that has been kind of coined as chatbots and co-pilots or assistants is that these agents are software entities, LLM powered.
Yeah.
They can actually perceive their environment. So bringing back to your example, they can see that. They can actually make decisions and they can act upon them. And they can also interact with other systems and users in a human-like fashion. So there's a lot of analogy
Right.
by what you just gave to me, but I'm talking more in the context of an enterprise scenario.
Right.
And in that case, think about, that you and I, we all would like to have certain things automated, not just the assistants which are giving us some guidance or some insights. When ChatGPT came, we were all kind of floored and we learned a lot by, playing around with it and
Right.
getting answers. But we want certain actions. So I would underline the word actions.
Okay.
That, how it can actually act upon it.
Right.
The example that you just gave.
Right. So not just give not just me asking a question and getting an answer. It's more like me giving a command
Yeah.
and having the software do something.
Yeah,
Is-
take
is-
actions.
Yeah.
And we'll be happy to talk about
Okay.
a couple of examples.
So these are different because they're now based on LLMs, large
Exactly.
language models, versus either step-by-step instructions that chatbots used to do,
Yeah.
or a deep learning model
Yeah.
that was employed before. Now we're seeing them being used with LLMs, and then these also evolved from AI assistants, right?
Exactly.
And so, can you explain a bit like what's changed in this evolution?
Yeah, so I think if you think about the early days of chatbots and AI assistants, I'll recall a couple of years back when we were making use of chatbots, we would ask certain questions, it will respond to you. And when the things fell short and the chatbot could not respond because of the statistical or the rule-based, or, then it would pass on to a human agent and the human agent would start asking you the same set
same
of
questions over again that the
because
chatbot
there was
already
no
done, yeah.
contextual accuracy.
Yeah.
There was no continuity.
Yeah.
There was no memory. So as you kind of, think about it, these agents, they actually have the planning ability. They have the ability to make use of, invoke certain other usage tools to kind of get more information about certain things.
Right.
They can actually even perceive like what's really happening. So there's a continuity. If you as a customer had asked certain questions and it actually continues across different sessions, then it will remember. It will remember that what are my preferences, what are my requirements, and then it will have memory. It's different than the computational memory,
Sure.
but it will have
Sure.
the memory.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so, do you think people confuse chatbots and copilots as the same thing, or do people understand
do.
the
They
differences?
do.
So, what are some of the differences
So
between those?
the basic, let's level set. Chatbot is basically a computer program that
Yeah.
simulates the human conversation with the end user, right? It didn't really have any kind of memory. It didn't really have a continuity. It didn't really take any actions. It was just a conversational interface and gave you certain very standard rules and, responses,
Right.
right? Co-pilots, they were actually, many of them are, they're based on LLMs, right? So agents are also based on LLMs, so co-pilots also. But the key difference is that they are like operating along with us, right? They're not operating independently. Agents can act independently as well. They can go and do certain things beyond with us, right?
Right.
And we'll talk a little bit more on that. So unlike fully automated AI agents, the co-pilots, they can provide suggestions and recommendations. When you're writing an email, it can
Right.
provide you some guidance. And, the co-pilot, we can ask relevant questions, but it's not taking any action.
Yeah.
That is the key difference.
There are, I think you wrote in a PowerPoint thing that I used as basis for this interview.
Yeah.
There are 4 common features that
Yes.
most people will see in the space. I'm going to go a little bit out of order
Yeah.
because I want to ask you about the perception part.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these agents, you're saying, can now perceive and process information from their environment, whether it's visual or auditory. Can you explain kind of because I saw this in the robotics space when I was covering robotics a few years ago, that a robot could see where it was and then it would respond and take action based on that.
Yeah.
So how does a computer software program perceive visual and auditory information?
Yeah, so this is like, as you and I both know, AI is nothing new. It's been, it was coined in
Right.
1950s. But there's been a lot of evolution in computer vision AI technologies, in speech to text translation technologies, text to speech. There's been a lot of conversational AI and natural language processing evolution as well. So think about, in a case of a retail example, which is my favorite example, suppose you actually get a particular shoe that you really like, right? And you can actually go ahead and upload that picture without even saying and asking for what shoe. It might be a Nike brand, but you might actually get something, a recommendation, which might be Adidas, and it might be something better. You might like some kind of a grip and feel. So when you upload, it's a combination of, and another important thing that organizations or all of us need to remember, that it's going to be a convergence of different types of technologies. In some cases, conversational AI and computer vision AI, or computer vision AI and Gen AI, they'll all work together. So when we are talking about visual and, auditory, we are talking about these, speech to text, the traditional techniques involve computer vision AI. So suppose in this example, when I uploaded a picture of my shoe that I'm looking for on a particular retailer website, the agent can actually go ahead and look for all the examples of all my, it can understand this, what brand is this? What are the key capabilities of this? What are the similar recommendations? In the price range, in the comfort level, and the features. And then the other agent could actually summarize all the different, stuff that they found out and provide me a recommendation. So that's what they can perceive the environment, and they can actually.
You're jumping a little bit ahead because we are going to talk about multi-agent stuff later.
Yes.
I also wanted to ask, is this an example? Tell me if this is an example of perceiving the environment. So you're a customer service AI agent, and you're talking to the human, and the human starts raising its voice or showing emotion, or you can tell that they're getting angry, and you start seeing examples of these emotional things. The AI agent would know, oh, this person's upset. I'm going to put them in touch with a human agent faster than they might before. Is that another good example?
Absolutely, you got it. It's not just always the visual, even in the tone of the language, right? I just flew back from a conference in San Francisco this morning, and there they actually walked through an example that how the humans are trained, right? Somebody is losing their cool. What are the choice of words that they need to use to calm down?
Right.
How long can they continue the conversation? Sometimes they'll have to kind of cut off the call. So the virtual agents, the AI agents also need to have those policies and training, that they can sense that, this is anger, this is frustration, and there has to be also about, different cultures, different languages, they have different tonality. So they all have to be trained on that. So
and it feels like we're not there currently.
No.
Because I get more mad at ChatGPT sometimes when I ask it to do something and it doesn't do it exactly the way I was hoping, and then I start getting mad, and then I start yelling at it. And not yelling like, but
the choice of your words. It's
and then all it does is apologize to me. That's all. It's just I'm sorry, I couldn't
help you. And then it gets you all the more frustrated.
Stop apologizing and just do what I said.
Exactly. So we are in early days of these technology, but what is more positive is that the pace of innovation is very fast. But having said that, there's a lot of concern as to, and we'll talk about it as to how we can actually contain it and keep the right set of guardrails and policies.
Okay, I wanted to get back to the other common features. Sure. So one was that most AI agents will have perception. But what are some of the other ones? Because I think you had 3 other ones that you wanted.
So I think the most important thing we have to remember is that, if I take an example of, say, ChatGPT initially came out, it didn't have access to, it was trained on certain amount of data, and at certain time, it couldn't invoke real time. Say, someone was asking about the weather or something, or, some statistical computational, and analytics and stuff. So it now can actually, the agent framework and all, they will have the ability to invoke other tools. So the tools usage will be other very, very important thing. Memory, as I was saying, that, suppose you got mad with ChatGPT in a particular session and you hung up, but there needs to be a continuity. Like the next time they can identify, it's again Keith Shaw asking about these questions. So,
And I think ChatGPT already does this.
Yes, exactly.
Because I have an account with them.
Yeah.
And at one point I asked them to do something around around this podcast.
Yeah.
And it knows this whole tech talk. You see the neon sign there.
Yes.
And so I asked it to do something else, like
Yes.
create a script for me.
Yeah.
And the last thing it said to me on the script was presented by Tech Talk. And I looked at that and was like, whoa,
Yes, yes.
it remembers. And I didn't ask it to remember. I think the early versions maybe weren't remembering.
Yeah.
But now it's remembering everything that I've asked before. And it's almost like it's forming an idea of
It's
who I am.
learning over human feedback. The more and more you do these things, the LLMs, they get better and better.
and that's-
but the memory has always been a concept there.
And that's good, right?
Yeah.
Or it's not scary.
No, it's pretty good because you think about it, in the retail world, and as an example, we always talk about, suppose if I'm shopping on my laptop or versus I'm shopping on my iPhone, or if I'm shopping 2 days back and today,
Yeah.
it needs to remember there needs to be continuity. And the earlier versions of chatbots and all, they didn't have this, and that's why it was very, very cumbersome. It was positive in some ways.
Right.
Yeah.
And now talk about the planning part. That's the fourth part too, is
so
planning.
the planning part actually kind of comes in terms of, the broader agentic workflows that I'm talking about.
Yep.
How do we humans work? When we are given a task, we actually split it into just the way you actually, if you're preparing for this particular podcast
Yeah.
with me, you might have done some research. You might have prepared, like, what are the questions that the customers are asking you the most? What are the things that might be interesting? So just the way we plan things, we kind of split them into different parts in order for these agents to be highly efficient in
Right.
what they do. They also have the ability to plan and kind of, sequence of actions, that what is the most optimal route in which I will actually invoke the different agents to achieve a particular goal.
So that always reminds me of when you're assigning a robot a
Yes.
task to do something,
Yes.
you have to almost list out step by step by step. And I always made a joke. That's how I had to treat my children when they were younger.
Yeah.
I couldn't just tell my son, go upstairs and bring this upstairs. But then I would also have to tell him, bring this upstairs and then come back down so that I can give you another task.
Yeah.
Or go up and clean your room. But it was like, no, you can't. You have to give them steps of like, bring down the laundry, bring down, throw out your garbage. And it was almost like you were dealing with robots when they're younger.
Yeah.
And eventually they understand, go clean your room also means to then come back downstairs and help
you
out.
brought in a great example, but I'll also tell you that is step one of the AI agents.
Yeah.
The next step of the AI agents, they will reason themselves. And they'll actually define what is the most logical. It will
Right.
be done dynamically, on the fly. It's not going to be that hard-coded. When you think about, robotic process automation, it was all hard-coded, right? That these are the steps
That was step
they
by
do.
step by step, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but in this one, it can be dynamic. It can learn on the fly. It can reason, and it can actually change it on the fly.
Now you had a great example of an example of how an AI agent is working today. I'm going to let you tell about this story, but it was basically and how an agent was able to save this company some money.
Yeah,
this
yeah.
person. So go ahead.
So this is Do Not Pay as a company. This is a public example. So I'm very intrigued by this example.
Yeah.
It was designed to help consumers save money, from contesting your parking tickets to identifying unused subscriptions. So until recently, what happened is and that's a very clear example of AI assistant to AI agents. And it used to just identify the issues, right? It could be if you're going through your credit card statements, I am guilty and victim of this so many times. I see them unused, some kind of funky subscription charges
Right.
on my,
Right.
credit card statement, or we actually have been confronted with a situation that we don't know how to deal with. We don't know. So the goal was to help consumers save money. And so when GPT-4 and AutoGPT came, they kind of integrated this rather than just giving them input as to these are the issues and these are the
Right.
challenges that you can look for. The first user of these was the Do Not Pay CEO, and he gave the agent, to ask him, gave his access to financial accounts. Of course, it has to be done with the right security guardrails and all, and asked him to say, find me money, and the agent identified $81 in unnecessary subscriptions, unusual $37 in flight Wi-Fi fee, and then it offered to automatically send cancellations. So Mark underlined the word. It did not just provide him insights,
Right.
but also did prepare the first draft of the letter. It actually did the cancellation in some cases and negotiated, took some actions to do 20% reduction in the CEO's cable
Right.
and internet.
And that's more of the Copilot function where it then took that next step and said, this is what we can do. It still asked for approval, I noticed.
Yes.
That it didn't just automatically
Yes.
fire off a letter.
So Copilot to some agentic thing as well, right? Because suppose over a period of time, you actually kind of give them the authority that in this case, up till $100, you do it for myself. Or, if it is beyond this, then you ask for approval. These are policies that need to be set up. So decisions and insights is Copilots, but when it started taking actions, that it automatically, kind of negotiated certain things or canceled some of the subscriptions, then it becomes an
right.
agent.
And then it found some other things and offered another suggestion that the CEO hadn't even thought of.
Exactly.
Of negotiating for a better internet.
Yeah, exactly.
Access plan. So that's very interesting. So there was another part that you were talking about where you believe that we're at an inflection point for autonomous AI agent development, where we're moving away from the concept of humans in the loop to humans on the loop. And so can you dig into that a little bit and explain that?
So I think that's the fundamental thing when we talk about copilots and assistants, that it's always working hand in hand with us, right? So we're asking them some questions. This is the way example that we just talked about in Do Not Pay. It was originally an assistant, a copilot, right? It was giving some insights and asking you, and then you were making decisions, right? So it's a similar thing like in the case of, say, software development. A software developer is being provided insights, on code or vulnerability scenarios or security issues. And then you can take that, input and kind of proceed with it. So that's human in the loop. You are in the loop. You are on the driver's seat and making the decisions.
And you're verifying if the information is correct, and you're just double checking to make sure that it's right.
Exactly. We are saying that we are at the inflection point because we cannot scale like this. There's so much to be done. And every company that you and I speak to, they're drowning with that. And, so what we have to do is look into as our comfort level and our trust factor improves and the maturity of these technology stuff improves, as I have done that in my presentation. There are three, dimensions that needs to be looked into: trust, technology, and policy. And we'll go a little bit deeper on that. Then as these kind of evolve, then humans can be on the loop. Like, you automate these actions, but you do an oversight on certain, intervals, like, every week, depending upon where your maturity, every week or every month. Like for example, when we are looking into the credit card statements, I don't sit and look at my credit card statement every day, right?
Right.
But we actually, when I'm doing my, setting my automatic payments, maybe once in a month, I'm reviewing it, right? So I'm on the loop, right?
It's almost like when you talk about managers in an employee situation, it's micromanaging versus trusting your employees to do the work. And then you only step in if something either goes really wrong or you check in with them just to make sure that everything is okay, right?
Absolutely. And I think that the most important thing is like, people should not confuse that it will be 100% human on the loop. We'll continue with human in the loop and on the loop. And the more trust, the more technology advancements happen, and the more policies and productionized monitoring of AI immune systems happen, the better will be on humans. So most repetitive tasks where we have the sense of confidence. Like I was very intrigued by one of the large retailer that actually made an AI agent negotiate contracts for them. And they couldn't do it themselves because they didn't have the volume. But then they actually realized that once they're doing it, they can get better with it. And, so then they kept on, putting in more policies and expanding the volume. So it's just like that, right? But it will be a combination all the time.
So you mentioned that you think we're at an inflection point. Does that mean that we're this is within the next year, we're going to see a lot of this start to move, and we're going to see a lot more agents, or is it still a couple of years off?
So agents are already being used.
Okay.
I just flew back from
like the better part, the better agents.
So the agent 1.0 will actually start taking shape right now in the next 9 to 12 months, and we'll see a lot of adoption that, I was speaking to some of the folks in this conference that I was at yesterday, and many of the customers, very, very large customers, I can't take their names, but you can imagine some of them very high-end retailers.
Sure.
And all, they're already using it, and we'll come to know about them pretty soon. But having said that, the full-fledged adoption and the whole, because, the vision is much bigger than what we are seeing. So the early stages, actions will be there, but limited set of actions, limited sets of human on the loop. But over the next 3 to 5 years, or even beyond 5 years, we'll see mainstream adoption.
Yeah.
Because trust is very, very critical.
And for a lot of people, they might not even realize that it's happening, right? It's going to be a lot of behind the scenes things, right?
Absolutely. You just nailed it, because, when we use Siri, or when we used, some of our, Alexas, many people didn't know that we were using AI, right? And it was very, very basic AI, but so many things will start happening.
They formed an opinion of whether they liked it or they didn't.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, oh, this technology stinks, or this is okay.
Yeah.
So, I think that as we move towards better agents, then everyone will start going, wow, Siri is so much smarter now, or Amazon Alexa is so much better now. All right, so we're going to jump a little bit farther into the future then. So the next step after you see mainstream adoption of AI agents is then you're going to start seeing agents talking to other agents, correct?
Yes.
Now, is this what we used to call this machine to machine, M2M, or is that something that was different? And then, where does that fit in with agents talking to other agents, basically?
Yeah. So here, it was like, this is like a real advanced version of that. So the way I like to define agentic workflow is that it refers to an iterative, right? So I think the word iterative is important. It's not like, it's not like step by step that this is how the systems are doing. It's not predefined. It's iterative, interactive approach to AI development, where the AI agent is empowered to engage in a more dynamic and self-reflective. So these words are very powerful. It's not predefined at the outset. It's dynamic. Depending upon the scenario, depending upon the learning. I'll give you one simple example. A very famous, analyst, financial company actually is using some early stages of it right now, where they provide dynamic advice to the investors like us. And they can change that, advice on the fly, depending upon the market conditions, depending upon my personal situation. And it is reflecting and reasoning. So it sounds at the very basic level as a machine to machine, but it's much more complicated than that. Yeah.
But I'm not ready yet to take all of my 401k money and go into one of these things yet, right? I shouldn't do that.
No, not yet.
All right.
Yes.
But you have another example that I wanted to ask you about, was this idea of a super agent that then creates little sub agents to go do specific tasks.
Exactly.
And again, and we talked earlier before the show about how you like that big picture project management style. So it's almost like we're going to have AI project managers that are going to assign other agents to go do things. And I think in your slide, you had a great example of a travel use case. And so can you walk me through like where we're going to start seeing, for travel requests?
Yeah. So that's a fantastic question, Keith. So as you said, there's still some debates going on in the industry whether there should be one single agent or there should be multiple agents. But let's walk through this example. So in this example, we are saying that there's a super agent, which is a travel manager, right? It understands the overall goal, breaks down the tasks, and select the best sub agent for each task. And then there could be an agent which is a travel destination research sub-agent, which compiles a list of all the top travel destinations and detailed profiles. The benefit of this kind of sub-agents is that they can specialize and become experts in that, right? Just the way you and I were talking, somebody is doing. And so let me complete this and then I'll come back. So there could be a budget planner agent, right? Find budget friendly, like they specialize in accommodation options for different destinations.
And with the memory function, it would know what I've paid for previously on trips. And it would know that, like, don't put Keith up in the Ritz-Carlton because he can't afford it. But also don't put him in the, I don't want to say budget hotel. I'm not going to name a name, but like, don't put him in that hotel.
Yeah. And also, like, maybe normally I travel during summer, but this time for some reason I'm taking a travel during, peak Christmas time. So season planner,
right?
Or it's an off-season kind of a thing. There could be a verifier that can collect all the information, cross-reference, validate the data to ensure its reliability, right? And then the super agent compiles all this information and gets this, right? This is exactly how most of the functions happen, whether it's in a bank or a travel agency or an insurance agency. Because one person, I remember when I bought my house, it's like, you're kind of applying for a loan, and you kind of sit and think, why is this person taking so long time? Because that person is not doing the main thing.
Right,
He or
right.
she is actually coordinating with a whole bunch of other individuals who are kind of coordinating, and this is what we are talking about.
Does
here.
that feel like that'll be more efficient than just having a single agent try to do all of the things within that scenario?
So it's use case dependent.
Yeah.
In a lot of scenarios, off the top of my head, I would say that it seems like it's going to be more efficient, and especially for complex decisioning and all, where finance and money matters are involved, and health and life and death situations are involved, and even efficiency is involved, right? Somebody can actually be specializing on the logistics. Somebody can be specializing. Not one single person can specialize in everything.
Yeah.
But to begin with, as you asked me this question, we'll see in a couple of scenarios that people may start with a single agent,
Right.
to keep it simple. But again, with complex problems, it make one of my other favorite example is a software development life cycle. So there could be a agent specializing in vulnerability testing. One of the agent could be specializing in documentation. One of the agent can be specializing in deployment. So it's all there you can see the benefit, right? It's just the way if you think in a software development life cycle, one developer doesn't know everything, but the architect knows everything.
Right.
So the architect will be like a super agent.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, obviously you've met a lot of companies that are developing a lot of these things. Are you allowed to talk about some of the companies that are developing, a lot of these tools and frameworks for these AI agents? Like, tell me about who you like, or they have to pay you money for the recommendations. But who are you seeing out there?
So on records, it's not pay for play.
Okay.
I know you were kidding. We look for, a very, very holistic methodology of what are the critical capabilities, how does it make a difference to the end users, and also where we are with the journey with AI. The fundamental thing, we look into what are the inhibitors for scaling AI adoption, and trust is a very important factor, right? Data security and privacy. So we look into all of that. Ease of use is a common known sense kind of a thing. So if you think about in terms of, let me talk about a couple of good companies that are, very innovative startups.
Sure.
So Cognition Labs actually has Devin, which is the fully autonomous software engineer, and we're all going gaga about it. So that's very interesting. There's another company which is called Second, which is a developer-focused startup that automates code-based migrations and upgrades. If you another favorite of mine is Lindy.ai, which is kind of creating no-code agents and allow you to build AI employees and mini Lindys and stuff. But if you think about the tech giants, right? We are seeing a lot of efforts by companies like Microsoft, with Google, Salesforce. Just I got back from their event. They actually just announced their whole agent force, ServiceNow. So they're all getting IBM. Everyone's getting into this space. Amazon. Some of them have come up with some very interesting frameworks, like OpenAI, the Gen framework with Microsoft, or Meta is really on top of it, and Meta GPT. So there's many interesting stuff going on there.
And then are you also going to see specific industries lean in more on this technology than other ones? Maybe the traditional technologies that you see or traditional industries that adopt technology before other ones. There are obviously some conservative industries out there as well.
Yeah. So I think, highly regulated industries, they have a plus and a minus. But before I go there, I forgot a very interesting company, Crew.ai, right? They're doing some fantastic work in terms of tools and frameworks as well. But now coming into this question about industries, there's a huge amount of potential. Financial services industries, they're very conservative and, very, very regulated, and they have to do all the due diligence. But at the same time, they're also at the forefront of a lot of, accepting innovative technologies because they are more matured in how they are developing things. They have a lot more in-house talent and all. So know your customer in the financial services industry would be very, very interesting. In the insurance, claim status seems like a very no-brainer. But again, you and I were chatting about how these agents can have different kinds of perception. So you see here, we can have a chat agent, we can have a voice agent, we can have a document, because these these are all very document centric. And then in the healthcare, it's a prime opportunity. But I would also say that there will be a crawl, walk, run kind of approach. So you will see it in certain use cases, but not for every use case.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And all right. So there was another question I had about a lot of it. You brought it up too, robotic process automation, where it was more of that step by step.
Yeah.
Are there other differences between, an RPA implementation and AI agents? Can an RPA project be turned into AI agents, or is it just a separate, completely different thing?
Yeah, so that's a fantastic question, Keith. What we are going to see is that first I'll level set what are the differences between these technologies. But before I go there, I also want to kind of, help all of us kind of understand the automation fabric is going to change. It will consist of different technologies. In some cases, it will continue to make use of RPA. In some cases, it will make use of copilots, and sometimes it will make use of AI agents. So it will be a combination, and depending upon the use case or the task. So for example, RPA was very popular for task-specific automation, rule-based processes, where it's very slam dunk. We have to remember, while it's very exciting to use all of these agents and co-pilots, they're very expensive, they're costly, they're computationally very. So RPA in some cases might be good enough, where you don't really have to kind of move the needle too much, right? But AI agents, where they're complex problems, highly adaptable, capable of learning and evolving, where you really have to do the entire business process transformation, automate end-to-end work, those are the cases where agents will come through. Yeah. But again, not to get too much into the details here because we don't have time.
Right.
I just want to kind of say that, agents will rapidly evolve, and words to remember is that it's going to be more dynamic. It's going to be end to end. It's going to be a fabric of different types of technologies. And people ask me this question, is RPA dead? The answer is no, it's not dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there still is room for RPA out there.
Yes. It will be a combination of them.
So we're talking about this in the sense of this is what's coming, this is the future. Yeah. And I can tell that there's probably a lot of audience members that are going, oh, this is great, but this is not it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be cheap. It's going to cost some money. So like, what are the big challenges that companies are going to face when they're looking at this AI agent world? Because there's got to be a few challenges they're going to face,
Many.
right?
I can go on and on.
Yeah.
I'll just start with some of the basics, and then I'll go into a little bit more deeper. I think it sounds very exciting when we're talking about multi-agent collaboration, that you could use multiple agents and they can all kind of, work like a charm. So ensuring smooth coordination between agents is critical, right? As is maintaining the consistency in the final output. What if you delegated a task to one agent and that did not complete? And
or the agent is just like, oh, it's my day off. I can't
it was dead. It didn't perform, right? Yeah. So that consistency in the final output and smooth collaboration will be very critical. And it's a challenge. We are very nascent. The other challenge, where right now is that computational resources across multiple agents is very, very challenging. But even otherwise, if you think about it, in the era of AI, and especially in the era of Gen AI, we've been constantly talking about how difficult it is to get the skills, the resources, how people understand this. Some of the other big challenges that organizations that we are speaking to, they tell us is that, how do they kind of, prepare their task force? Because there's a paranoia that people are going to lose jobs.
Right.
How do you prepare them? How do you do the change management? So cost is a challenge. Smooth collaboration is a challenge. Lower performance is a challenge. There are increased risk of errors if they're not doing that. But change management is a bigger challenge.
Yeah, like you brought up the whole jobs thing too. When you were starting to talk about the initial wave of generative AI, it was always about the people that were doing the repetitive tasks. And, you got to start thinking about, if I'm doing that repetitive task every day and day, like I might want to think about enhancing my skills. But I never thought that, someone like a project manager, like we were talking about before, project manager could juggle a whole bunch of different tasks. But now we're seeing that a multi-AI agent might be able to do this. As if I'm a project manager, I'm like, oh, wait a second, maybe I got to think about myself even potentially having to look at some new skills too. So there is that in the background, right? Yeah.
But I'll also tell you something that many of the software engineers ask this question, and they ask the CEOs of technology companies or even the investor community that what should I ask my kids to do, or how do I get a job?
Yeah.
I think our number one advice to everyone should be that we have to embrace AI. It's coming. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But it's nowhere close to the science fiction where it's ready to kind of kill all of us here. It's not happening.
No, right.
But at the same time, embrace it in the fashion. We need to improve our collaboration skills. We need to improve our soft skills. We need to be the bigger picture person.
Right.
We need to be, as I was telling you, people who understand the enterprise architecture, understand, because after all, it's a tool that we are training and empowering them to do it, right? It's coming much faster, but our skills have to be at a higher level to kind of bring these things together. And if we can leverage these technologies, we'll be further ahead than to be kind of fearing it.
All right, we're almost out of time, but there are two more quick questions I want to ask. So,
Sure.
What business advice would you give to companies that are looking to explore this new world of AI agents? Is it something that they can build this on their own, or do they start partnering up with companies that you listed before, and maybe developing some of these frameworks? Is it going to be the same question about AI agents that they had with generative AI in a lot of cases?
Yeah, I think some of the fundamentals remain the same, that, they have to make the build versus buy decision.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would also advise them that, get prepared. Last year I had done a keynote at the CIO 100 that preparing for the long-term impact. People really thought for a long time that AI is just going to be another, blockchain or another, metaverse. And people didn't get that serious. And, it was mainly a focus of the highly techie people. Now there's suddenly a understanding, and from the board and the C-suite, people are getting prepared. So how do they prepare for the business transformation? How do they prepare for the organizational change management and the technology architecture? It needs to be a composable architecture. So long story short, what you just asked, it's absolutely spot on. They need to figure out what's their business strategy and focus on the business outcomes. Figure out whether they want to actually partner with a trusted advisor like a big tech company or a startup or a professional services organization, and walk through your journey.
Right.
But be very cognizant that don't make this as an analysis paralysis like the data warehousing projects.
Right.
Focus on the outcomes. Don't do use cases in isolation. Focus on what KPIs you're going to after, and look into interconnected use cases and prioritize those agents and learn. I always kind of get this question that, I love to say that learn fast and fail fast. The things that you're not really working, be bold enough to shut them down, but focus and march forward with the ones that are making a difference for your organization.
You work long enough in this space and you hear it's the same advice for all these other technologies. Make sure you have the technology that can solve the problem. Don't just use the technology because everyone's saying that is great. But on that note also, can companies that might not have gone into the generative AI space, or they might not have had any projects, can they jump right into AI agents without getting their feet wet first with generative AI? Is it one of those technologies that you could kind of start without having done all the other previous work?
Yes. Because,
you sound a little hesitant there.
No, I'll tell you, because the reason I'm saying that is because it depends on what the company's objectives are, right?
Right.
If they're trying to kind of, do a very innovative use case where they really need to do some customization and do some, one-off, they might be better served if they actually do all their due diligence. But if they're using something off the shelf from one of the customers or technology suppliers, where they really don't need to build their army, and a lot of the small medium-sized companies, they're taking that route. They need to be aware of it, but they can be good enough and better served for a lot of operational efficiency, for a lot of employee satisfaction, customer experience use cases. They can go with off the shelf solutions.
Okay. All right, Ritu Jyoti, again, thank you so much for being on the show today. This was fantastic. So
it's a pleasure, Keith.
Come back anytime. We'll talk about AI stuff,
awesome,
till the cows come home. All right.
Awesome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. And that's all the time we have for today's episode. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, add any comments you have below. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.